So the Indiana Fever right now are paying, they are paying Sydney Coulson 60k. And with that 60k, it means, sorry, not 60k, Jesus, 90k. They're paying her 90k. And with that 90k, the Indiana Fever literally are going to start next season with 11 players. You see those 2 draft picks? Who cares? They can't register them. They cannot register one of those draft picks. Unless, of course, and by the way, with how much they're paying Sydney Coulson, I'm not joking when I say this, they can't trade Christy Wallace. They can't trade Lexi Hull. Unless this team does one of 4 things. Trades Katie Lou Samuelson, or cuts. They can't trade Dantas. Dantas won't allow them to field the 12th player. Lexi Hull will not allow them to field the 12th player. Neither will Christy Wallace. They have to do one of 4 things to field 12 players this year. And it's trade Katie Lou Samuelson, or flat out cut Aaliyah Boston, cut Caitlin Clark, or cut Dewana Bonner. They have to do one of those 4 things. Otherwise, they cannot get 12 players. So with those 19 and 20 picks in the draft, just forget about them. They can't use them. So what the smart thing to do is just stash someone. It's the smart thing to do. Draft somebody, leave them in Europe for a year, then maybe in 2026 you take them. And for me, with that second round pick, the best player that you can take right now is Anastasiia Kosu from Russia. So she's playing in the top league in Russia, which right now is, look, it's not the greatest standard. It's not the level it was back when all the top WNBA players played in Russia, but it's not a bad level. Not a bad level of basketball by any means. Like, it's still a good, really high level pro league. Like, Jaylen Brown's playing over there. There are players that are playing there. There are really good players that are playing over there. But for me, Anastasiia Kosu is a risk-free. Like, rather than taking someone and just automatically cutting them. Like, they're over the salary cap. Jaylen Brown's not making this team. Like, she's not making this team. Like, you might as well pretend Jaylen Brown is not on this roster. She is not making this team. There's a reason why Indiana, other than saying we've signed Jaylen Brown, haven't said a word about her. She's just not making the team. They're going out with 11 players. Unless they can trade Katie Lou, they're going out with 11. But what Anastasiia Kosu does, at least it allows you to stash. And she's a really interesting player. So she's playing in the top league in Russia. She's playing for that UMMC team. If I'm not mistaken, was this the team? I think UMMC was the team that everyone used to play for back in the day. Like, I want to see ex-players right here. Who they have as their ex-players. Yeah, like John Quell Jones is their ex-player. Brittany Griner, obviously. I think, if I'm not mistaken, played for them. I think Taurasi played for them. I'm not sure if Stewie played a year for them. But if you're looking at how she's doing, and she is, by the way, a 6'1" defensive wing. That is her calling, like her main thing. She's a 19-year-old 6'1" defensive wing. And she's been playing, obviously, in the top league in Russia since 2022. This year, she's putting up 10 points per game. If you look at her last games, 14, 12, she had a few bad ones, 13, 6, 13, 15, 9. So she's doing well. She's a good rebounder as well. And she's averaging 5.3 boards a game. She's doing it. She doesn't shoot the 3 ball at all. But from 55% from the field, to 80% from the free throw line. So she could become a shooter. But she's a really good defender. She's a kind of wing 4-ish hybrid. Again, a reluctance to shoot the 3 can be a bit of a problem, but still, like, if you're looking at how she's playing, she's been incredibly efficient, and she has been one of the better players. She's been by far the best young player in this league. And if you're looking at how she's been getting on while playing for Russia, like in the Under-19s World Cup, she averaged 15.7 points per game. In the 16s Euros, she averaged 17 points per game. And obviously in EuroLeague, she played in 2021 and 2020. Like, what age? Like, she's born in 2005. She's born in April 05. She's 19. And this was 4 years ago she played EuroLeague. 5 years ago she played EuroLeague. She was playing when she was 15, 14. Like, she was a kid. If you want to look at these stats, she was genuinely like 15, 14, which is crazy. Which is absolutely crazy, like. But, yeah, like, she is somebody that has first-round talent, but it's hard to evaluate her because the Russian league maybe isn't as strong as the French league. It's not as strong as the EuroLeague anymore. It's not as strong as Euro Cup. So she's hard to evaluate because obviously after the war, the Russian league became much weaker, especially after what happened with Brittany Griner. But if you're the Indiana Fever, you kind of have to take a punt, don't you? Like, what's the point of using those picks? Like, you can't use those picks on anyone. Like, you can't register a player. You don't have enough money to pay a second-round pick. You just don't. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no point making think pieces about who the Fever should draft. The Fever should literally, if they are not trading those picks, like for me, I think they should just trade both of them to get off Katie Lou. Anyone being like, oh, why would they trade both of them? Because they can't use them anyway. Trade both of them with Katie Lou for a third. Trade both of them with Katie Lou and next year's second for a third. Like 3 seconds Katie Lou to just get off her. Some team's dumb enough, not dumb enough. Some team will do that. A rebuilding team, the Connecticut Sun, and if they end up trading Marina Mabry and they have to trade Tash Cloud, they might go and do that. They might just say, no point, let's just stack up on as many picks as possible. And maybe, I don't know, they could use something to get their own pick back from Chicago. But yeah, it's a situation where there's no point. I don't think there's a point really talking about the Fever making this pick, because when they signed Coulson, I thought initially Coulson was going to be on the vets minimum. I thought she was going to be on the vets minimum, not 90k. So the Fever literally, unless they trade Katie Lou, they're going out with 11 players, and they have 12 players. Like, they have 12 players in their roster. They can't afford their current roster, and every player is on a guaranteed contract except for Clark, Aaliyah, and Duana Bonner. And obviously Jaylen Brown. Like, we know Jaylen Brown's getting cut. Like, that's just a guarantee. She's getting cut. But like, Clark, Mitchell, and Bonner are the only players that are not on guaranteed deals. And they're not cutting one of those three. Imagine if they cut Duana Bonner before the season starts because they can't field the team. Imagine if they went and did that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, lads. Like, Anastasiia Kosu is... There's no point even looking too far into this. She is the best player that you can stash in Europe that's going to be available possibly at 19. Like, it's as simple as that. She might be available at 19, and you can't use the pick anyway. You can't. The pick can't play. The pick can't play next year. So with the pick not being able to play next year, I don't see what the point of making all these think pieces, looking at what this team needs, looking at players that fit, when it doesn't matter. It actually does not matter. Because unless they trade Katie Lou Samuelson, Dantas is not enough to get under the cap. Lexi Hull's not enough to get under the cap now. Like, they need someone who has a contract of a minimum of 102k. And the only players that have contracts that they're able to trade are Katie Lou Samuelson, Natasha Howard, Duana Bonner, and Kelsey Mitchell. That's it. That's it. Like, as much as I hope this team has an idea of what they're doing, but it's looking more and more likely they're just going to go out with 11. Like, it's going to take a major master stroke from the front office to not have 11 players next year. So if you're going to go out with 11 anyway, why not just use one of your draft picks on a stash player? And I don't know, maybe just trade the other pick for a second rounder next year. I don't know. I don't think next year's draft is as deep or anything, but just trade it for a second rounder next year and give someone else the chance of taking like a Van Lith and Olsen, a Rhea Marshall or something, because none of those can literally play if the Fever. Like, if you are an American player and you get drafted by the Fever this year, it's the worst thing ever because it's a guarantee you get cut. So anyway, I'll see you guys.